Okay, here we go. So again, my name is Natalie and I'm with Age of Central Texas. We are a regional nonprofit here in Austin. We serve the Williamson, Travis, Bastrop, and Hayes County. Um, we we serve those areas, but I receive calls from anyone really all around the state, just looking for resources and even out of state, looking for resources. And I connect them to resources locally. So really anybody can call me. I manage the Caregiver Information and Resource Center. So I do just that. I connect people to community resources and I organize educational seminars like this one. I'm gonna try to get my screen to go. There we go. So again, the Caregiver Education and Resources is a program that I manage. I do one-on-one consultations with family caregivers or just individuals in the community looking to plan ahead or just talk through certain situations that they're currently in to find support for them. My services are free. So you can call me and we can spend however long we need to on the phone or on a Zoom chat, and I hope to direct you in the right direction to the resources that are available in our Central Texas area. Let's see. So that's one program. Our next program is our Health Equipment Lending Program. And this program is the busiest. This is free durable medical equipment that we loan out to the community. So we have wheelchairs and walkers, rollator walkers. Those are the ones with the wheels and the seat, as seen in the picture. We have transfer benches for the shower and tub. Another really important product that we distribute to the community at no cost is incontinence products. We are able to supply anyone who is in need of incontinence products with 2 packages per month, and that also includes wipes, gloves, bed pads. So you can give us a call if you are in need of any incontinence products or durable medical equipment. We usually accept all of these donations. Right now we have paused that. We have received so many donations over the last couple of months, and we are processing some of those right now, and we're trying to catch up, and then we will be opening that back up shortly to donate those items to us. The community has just been so generous, and it's overflowed into our halls and conference rooms in the building. So thank you all for donating and thinking of us. We will post that date on the website, and it'll be on our voicemail soon whenever we announced the date to accept donations again. But again, if you are in need of any equipment, any incontinence products, you can give Age a call and we will get you set up with accessing those items. Just a little quick note, due to COVID, we have moved all of the appointments to, just appointments only. In the past, you were able to walk into our building, and right now, to keep everybody safe, our building is closed to the public, so that we ask that you just call ahead if you are in need of an item. We will set you up with an appointment, and you just come and pick it up. So that is our Health Equipment Lending Program. Let's see, just one really quick thing about this that I just love. I supervise this program, and I feel really lucky to be able to work so closely with it. All of the items that we have are donated by the community. Age does not purchase any of the durable medical equipment or incontinence supplies that we hand out. and that's just a really beautiful part of this program and what we do. It's a community helping the community, and we're so lucky that we are able to do that and have such wonderful individuals in our area to help with that. So thank you. The next program that AGE has is our Caregiver U program, and this is free evidence-based classes that are taught to family caregivers. We have 3 classes that are offered, and that's Powerful Tools for Caregivers. And that class focuses on how to balance your life while caring for someone. That class provides you with stress-reducing tools and tips on how to navigate that caregiving journey. You are in a small class setting, so you are with other people who are family caregivers as well. And it provides you with an opportunity to find support, with other people in a similar situation. The next class that we have that is for the family caregiver is our Savvy Caregiver class. And this one is for family caregivers who are caring for someone with dementia or memory loss. That is a very different type of caregiving. So this particular class, the Savvy Caregiver, focuses on how to care for someone and yourself. The next class that we offer is A Matter of Balance, and this is a class for really anyone. This will focus on managing fall concerns and risks. So it's a falls prevention class, and all of these classes are 6 to 8 week sessions. And with A Matter of Balance, that class actually brings in a physical therapist to discuss fall risks and talk about exercises that can help strengthen your muscles. I encourage you to look into this particular program, Caregiver U. Right now, because of COVID, we are transitioning into virtual programming for Caregiver U. And so we have a couple of classes already lined up for people to register. I believe Powerful Tools and A Matter of Balance. And then there's a shorter caregiver class that is also going to be offered. And you can find this information on our website. And so I encourage you to look it up. Some classes are already set up and established and ready for registration. And again, it is at no cost to you. It's free. You just register and attend. Let's see, there we go. So the next program that we have is Memory Connections. And Memory Connections is a brain exercise and emotional support for individuals who are living with early memory loss diagnosis. This particular program has also pivoted to virtual programming. So the Memory Connections participants are now meeting online, and they're participating in the brain booster exercises and current events and creative activities online as well right now. Another really important part of this program is there's an established support group for the family member, for the family caregiver. So the participant, the individual who's living with the memory loss, benefits from this program, and also there's a support group specifically for the family caregiver, and this support group is open to the public, but a lot of the members, or a lot of the support group attendees are they have a person who is in the program. So this is a great program. This does have a cost connected to it. And we can, if you want more information on that, you can absolutely reach out to me, and I'll provide everybody with my contact information at the end. Our next program is the Thrive Social and Wellness Centers. We have two. We have one located in Austin, and we have one in Round Rock. And this is pre-COVID. This is a program that is for individuals who really want to socialize, or it may not be safe for them to be at home alone. So a lot of our members live with a family member who is caring for them, and that family member needs to work. So this is a perfect place for them to come socialize with other individuals throughout the day. It's a safe place. They would receive a breakfast and a lunch and a snack. It's a wonderful program. This particular program does have a cost connected to it. But due to COVID, everything had to pivot quickly, actually. And now all of our members are receiving virtual programming. So the activities that were once held in person are now virtual. And we also have a lot of connection with the family caregivers. So if you are interested, if this is something that you think would be great for your person and for you, please reach out to me. We can talk about how the program is, how it's had to quickly pivot, and what types of activities we are now providing online. And there's that, let's see. And our last program that we have is our Age Computer Lab, and this is all volunteer run, and it's peer-to-peer taught. So we have older adults teaching other older adults about computers and smartphones, and lots of classes range from how to work an Excel spreadsheet to how to work your smartphone. And so if you would like more information on this, please, again, just reach out to me. And I'm going to stop sharing my slide. There we go. Okay, and so today we have Megan Frazier, and Megan is with Functional Stability and Mobility. And then we also have Stephanie Lane, and Stephanie Lane is with Drive a Senior West Austin. And driving safety, which is the topic of today's seminar, is definitely, a question that I get a lot from family caregivers and older adults who want to plan ahead and make this transition, as best as they can. So today, Megan and Stephanie will share with you information, and then we will open it up to questions. If you would like to submit your questions via the chat box, please do so. The chat box can be found at the bottom of your screen. You can send the question that way, or if you feel comfortable, you can unmute yourself and ask. We would like for this to be, a conversation, and this, give you an opportunity to just ask any questions that you have. All right, and Megan, I will hand it off to you.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen really quickly. All right, did it work?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Natalie, I'm super excited to talk about this because it's a subject that can bring up a lot of emotions for families and older adults. So I just want to give you a little bit of background on who I am, what my company is, and then we'll talk a little bit about driving retirement, what that means, and how we can kind of talk about that. I own a private clinic. It's called Functional Stability and Mobility, or Home and Driving. And I am an occupational therapist and driving rehab specialist. So what that means is I started as an OT and then kind of transitioned into the role of addressing driving across the lifespan. So with teen drivers, adult drivers, and then older adults. And what my role is I do a comprehensive medical driving evaluation, and that's a two-part eval where we look at the clinical parts needed for driving. So safety, balance, cognition, memory, attention, problem solving, vision, motor function. And then we get in the car and we look at how does whatever's going on, either physically or mentally, apply to on-road safety. And then we decide, is there a way that we can work with the person to get them safer, whether it's through adaptive equipment or training. Sometimes for older adults, it's looking at that transition for maybe no longer driving. We like to use the term driving retirement with our profession because people can identify with the idea of retirement, so it makes it a little bit easier of a discussion. And then as you can see there, we do driving training. And then my company also separately does aging in place evaluations as well. So let's see if I can, sorry, I'm going to see if I can get the next slide. Up there it goes. All right. So one of the things that really confuses people about driving in Texas is who does what. And is there a mandatory reporting law for people who are maybe unsafe with driving or shouldn't be driving? So one of the things I'd like to talk to you guys about today is kind of the state rules and who does what. So there's the Department of Public Safety, so the DPS, and that's where you get your driver's license renewed. You take your on the road test when you're a teenager. And then there's also the Texas Medical Advisory Board, and they actually fall under the Department of State Health Services. So they are completely two different departments. The Texas does not have a mandatory reporting law, although physicians or any healthcare provider are ethically responsible that if they have a concern, that they pass that information up to the Medical Advisory Board. The DPS is the one that's solely responsible for making decisions regarding driver's licenses. So if there's a concern about putting a limit on a driver's license or revoking it for some reason, the DPS is the one that is the sole decision maker on that. What happens a lot of times with older adults is maybe a family or a physician expresses a concern and a report is sent up to the Medical Advisory Board. And that's made up of, I think, 15 physicians. They meet twice a month. And what they'll do is they'll look at all the different paperwork that's been provided and they come up with a position paper. And it's a statement kind of making a suggestion one way or the other. They send that paperwork down to the DPS, and then the DPS is the one that makes that sole decision on what they're going to do about the license. And typically what will happen is once the DPS receives the recommendation from the Medical Advisory Board, there's a hearing. And it's in traffic court. It's not like a civil court hearing or anything, but the person involved, like this, that was reported, they will be summoned to traffic court with the DPS and a judge, and they'll talk about what's going to happen from there. A lot of times that's kind of the end result. And that's why we're talking to you today, is because it really even shouldn't get to that point where it gets to the Medical Advisory Board. Okay, so that's where this driving retirement plan comes in. I love this topic because it reframes the whole idea of driving cessation and puts it into the idea that it's a plan. So the way driving retirement is defined as a driving retirement plan is an individualized plan to help older adults maintain community mobility, participate in life events, fulfill daily needs such as accessing food, medication, doctors. It doesn't list it on there, but I think volunteer opportunities, going to church, visiting friends and family, all of those things should be listed on there as well. It's not just going to the doctors, getting your medications. It should be keeping people involved with the community in every aspect of their life. So I also think in addition, that's something that needs to be planned for. The idea of driving retirement should start now. I am 40 years old, and I've already started talking to my husband about a driving retirement plan because I don't know what the future holds. Heaven forbid something were to happen to me medically and I'm not able to drive for 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 months. I need to have a plan on how I'm going to access my life. So the idea of driving retirement plan is something that should be discussed at all ages. It's something that it's a work in progress. Where you're at in your life, you may look at it different ways. You may use, for me, I might use Uber or Lyft or a family or a friend, but an older adult may use other transportation options that maybe aren't appropriate for me. So it's something that's evolving, and it's a work in progress. When you're looking at driving retirement, you really should consider yourself, but then also involve any family that wants to be involved, maybe a spouse, children, maybe other friends that are around, because they can be really helpful in helping you really look at your goals for accessing the community, but then also understanding what's available to you, and then also helping you learn how to use those. You should talk about it often. It shouldn't be when mom or your spouse gets into a car accident and you're really concerned. It should be something that's brought up often that you're talking about, just like when you're retiring from a job. You think and you plan financially for it, emotionally for it. Driving should be addressed in the same way. Why might you talk about it? Warning signs. I'm sure we all have an idea of what warning signs are. Losing your keys every once in a while, that happens. I do it. Losing your car in the parking lot at Christmas time and you can't find it, that might not be a warning sign, but if it's happening consistently over and over and over again, maybe with a parent, you're noticing there's dings and dents on the car. Maybe they're getting little citations. Maybe you're noticing that when you're driving with someone, the people behind you are honking, or you look down and you're holding on to the sides because you're not sure if the person you're driving with is going to make the right decision. Near misses. The Hartford Guide, and I'll show you these in here in just a little bit, has this handout, and it's completely free at the Hartford. And in it, it has a really great list of warning signs. And I'm just going to quickly show it, kind of hold it up so y'all can see it. And it gives 30 warning signs that you can go over and kind of circle or highlight. Other reasons, maybe other family members, a sister or a brother or a spouse has said, "Oh, I'm really concerned about mom. Have you seen, she told me she got lost the other day going to the grocery store. That's never happened before." Maybe when you're at the doctor brings up concerns. Maybe there's some memory loss that the doctor's picking up on, and they think, maybe I have some concerns about driving. And unfortunately, a lot of physicians are not comfortable talking about driving and helping you make that decision. But they may mention it, but not take that active role in helping you decide. Medical changes is huge. As we age, we may be diagnosed with conditions that are progressive, like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, mild cognitive impairment, peripheral neuropathy can also impact driving, diabetes, any sort of vision issues. So if you have any sort of medical conditions that might impact your driving eventually, that would be a good starting point for you to take a step back and look at, maybe I should start thinking about driving retirement and exploring some of these options. I just lost my screen, sorry. I think I lost it, hold on. I have one more slide, sorry guys.
It is fine.
And there's one more, give me 1 second, sorry. Okay, and then, okay, how? Consider the needs. Things that you're going to need to consider are any mobility issues that you may have. Maybe you have a walker or a cane or a wheelchair that you're going to need to transport. What time of days are you going to need to travel? Are you going to need assistance with, if you're going to the grocery store, carrying the bags in and out of the house or in and out of the car? Do you need somebody to go with you? So when you're looking at driving retirement, make sure you're considering what needs you are going to have for that transportation. Another thing that's really hard is sometimes being honest with ourselves and with our families. Like I said before, driving is a very emotional thing for a lot of people. There's one of the statistics that's out there is when people retire from driving, it increases your risk for depression by 50%. Because you're being isolated and you're no longer having access to the community as you did before, and it's taking away your independence. So being honest with yourself and saying, am I safe to drive? Is mom or dad safe to continue to drive? And what are the repercussions if we don't address this? Could they possibly injure someone else? And that's one of the hardest things for people, is having that open and honest conversation. And that's one of the things when I'm counseling family members that want to have that discussion with a parent, is encouraging them to have an open and honest discussion, really come into it with, as we were talking before, about some of those warning signs and concerns, making a list, having those concerns written down. So that way, as you're having those conversations, you have examples. It's just not, Mom, I'm concerned that you're having difficulty with driving. We need to talk about it. You can say, Mom, I noticed that there's some dings and dents on your car. Can you tell me about a time when that happened? Do you know where they came from? Or, my sister mentioned that you got lost going to the grocery store. What happened? How did you get home? Did you have to call somebody? And bringing up some of those examples and kind of framing it in a concern versus an accusation, it really helps with kind of driving that discussion. And finally, driving retirement is a plan. It's not the destination. A lot of people say, well, are you going to take away my keys? What we're trying to do is help families and older adults be more part of that conversation, so it doesn't get to that point where it's that final decision. Most adults, we change our driving habits as we age anyway. We might not go on MOPAC. We might not go out in the rain. We avoid rush hour like the plague. So we already kind of modify our driving behaviors, and that's already the beginnings of driving retirement plan. It's just now adding to it and taking it to that next step so that we can no longer drive at all. We already have a plan in place and it's not as scary. I think that's about it.
I'm sure you're on mute, Natalie.
I don't know how many times I do that a week.
Leave yourself on mute.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really wonderful information. Stephanie, would you like to share?
Sure. Thank you, Megan, for all of that valuable information. I'm sure, I learned a couple of things from that, all those logistical ins and outs of driving retirement, which I love that term, because retirement is supposed to be a happy time when you can let go of one piece of your journey and start a new one. And Drive a Senior, we like to be a part of that journey, that driving retirement journey for you. We strongly believe that aging in place is important, but we want to make sure you feel you're doing it with dignity. It's very important to a lot of senior care workers like Natalie, Megan, and myself. We, Drive a Senior has been around for 35 years, and we provide free transportation and support services for homebound seniors. And that homebound word gets thrown in there. It may be a little bit confusing because a lot of people don't realize we also offer services to partial drivers. We realize that this process of driving retirement can have a long timeline, and we want to try to fit in that timeline as early as possible so that dignity, that confidence, and that trust piece and your helpers for retirement we can get in there and get all of your pieces laid out for you before it really is time to completely retire from driving. Drive a Senior, typically we provide 2 free rides a week. We do medical rides, but as Megan said, or Natalie, I forget which one, social opportunities are very important too. We do provide rides for visiting friends. Pre-COVID, we had a social van program, and we also had some events for seniors as well. Right now, because of COVID, we have limited our rides to medical rides only. We are a volunteer-based organization. We train all of our volunteers, and all of our volunteers are amazing. They absolutely love what they do. And we, like I said, can provide rides. You don't have to be completely non-driving. If you don't feel comfortable getting on a highway to get up to St. David's Medical Center, but you feel comfortable making 4 right turns around your neighborhood, that's fine. You can still drive your car locally, and we can take you to the destinations that you feel aren't as safe for you to travel. And our registration process is really easy. Your qualifications are just 60 years and older, and you need transportation services. We don't do any kind of financial qualifications. It's free for everybody. Sometimes we do have to call a Lyft or another transportation paid services, and we pay for that. We have a generous grant from Capital Metro. They help us with our program because we are considered an extension of Capital Metro. Capital Metro realizes that there are some folks, it's just not reasonable to expect them to walk a mile to the bus stop or to be able to maneuver all of the very complex scheduling systems. And so they give us a grant to help us provide that small gap in service for folks who don't feel comfortable riding public transportation. And as an extension of Capital Metro, we are able to pay for some Lyft and send a ride transportation options to our clients who feel comfortable doing that. Drive a Senior has multiple regions. It can kind of get a little bit confusing. I'm the executive director of Drive a Senior West Austin and North Central. We are in the process of combining. And there's also a Drive a Senior in far Northwest Austin. And there's a Drive a Senior in Lakeway, South Austin, East Austin, and some of you may have heard of Senior Access, which is another senior transportation agency in Round Rock, Pflugerville, and East Austin. So no matter where you live in the Austin area, there is a senior transportation agency that can help you. And we always encourage folks who may still be hesitant to begin their driving retirement. We always offer just a phone call. Give us a call. We can talk to you over the phone, answer any additional questions. And even if you're not fully ready to use our services, at least we can get you registered for when the time comes and you already have that process done. If an emergency happens or an urgent situation happens and you need us, we're already there. You're already registered with us. And I've been really honored to be a part of this organization. It's been around for so long. It was started in 1985 by a coalition of congregations in West Austin, and they saw the need for seniors to be able to get around town, and not just for medical, but just to have that retirement and being able to do that with dignity. And the culture of Drive a Senior is really to partner with seniors and to partner with adult children caregivers to make this process as easy as possible and as as fun as possible, because retirement doesn't mean you don't get to have any fun anymore. We want to make sure when you are retired, you can do all those fun things that you always wanted to do, and age shouldn't stop you from doing those things. We want to make sure that you get to medical rides and you're still participating in your community, because we care about you, and we want to make sure you still feel that you're a part of our lives too. There is no obligation when you sign up with us. If you sign up with us and you never take a ride, that's fine. But we really would love to connect with any caregivers who might be having a challenging time having those conversations, and any seniors who, may still be questioning what they're going to do. I am going to put a slide up on the screen here. and it has our information on it. And this is our phone number, 512-472-6339. Our website on here is driveassenioratx.org. That is actually going to be our new name by the end of the year because we are merging 2 regions together to become Drive a Senior Austin, Texas.
Stephanie.
Mission is to provide transportation and support services to older adults, which enable them to live independently and age in place. We are here for you to age in place as long as possible. And I didn't know.
Hey, Stephanie, can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. Can you share your screen one more time with the contact information? I'm not seeing it on my end.
It's not on there? Okay. Let me see what happened here. Are we on now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. So Drive a Senior West Austin, 512-472-6339. And it's driveassenioratx.org. You can go to that website now, and we have additional information on there about our merger. There's a registration form on there that you can fill out. And also, if you are if you want to volunteer with us, we actually have volunteer opportunities for some seniors who are not driving. We have a lot of mailings that need to go out that need to be folded and stuffed into envelopes. And so if you would like to volunteer with us too, you can do that. And then for those who are still actively driving, we always accept more volunteer drivers for our program. We have about 243 active volunteers right now, and about, I'd say 350 active seniors within our care. Now, just to kind of back up a little bit and let you know what we're doing in response to the pandemic. In March, we built and launched and are operating an emergency food pantry with delivery for seniors. We realized very quickly that food access was going to be very challenging for seniors everywhere. And we reached out to the community, and within a couple of weeks, we had a fully functioning food pantry. If you are a senior that you know needs food pantry services, they can call our office, and no matter where they live in Austin, regardless of us just being the West Austin region, we will make sure they get food pantry services. We also have prepared meals. And this program is going to run through the end of August, and anybody qualifies. There is no, we don't ask any questions. You just call our office, and we are more than happy to put you on a list. We have trained drivers who do a contactless drop off for your groceries. And we can also help you with some prescription pickup. I know that's really important right now. We will be launching a new program called Senior Sidekicks soon. And that is a program designed to help seniors continue to get their groceries while they are remaining socially isolated through the duration of the pandemic. We realize that the social isolation piece is going to be much longer for seniors than it is the rest of the population. And we are preparing permanent support services to make sure seniors can remain socially isolated safely and have grocery shopping available to them. If grocery shopping is something that you foresee that you need, you can give our office a call, and you can be on a wait list to register for our program. We do have a little bit of a wait list right now, but we should be getting through it. So by the time we get through August, we should have everybody registered. We also, that Senior Sidekick program is designed to help teach anybody who wants to learn how to order groceries over the phone or online on your own, because sometimes it's better to equip folks with how to be independent rather than doing the services for them, which some people need the services and some people just need a little bit of assistance maneuvering the technology. And we have great volunteers who would love to help with teaching you and being a senior sidekick as long as you need, because sometimes we need to learn those tech pieces a few times before we can get it on our own. And we want to make sure there's a lot of different options for you to receive your food while you're socially isolated. So you can call the office, ask any questions about that. We still do have transportation services. It's a little bit limited. I would encourage everybody to at least get registered with us. And I'll pull my screen off. And I'm sure Natalie will be including our contact information in a follow-up. And you guys can call anytime. We are open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Yes, I will be sending out an email at the end of the seminar with all the contact information and a survey that I encourage you all to fill out. Surveys are really important to us and to Age of Central Texas. These seminars and educational opportunities are for you, and I look at those surveys and I want feedback to be able to bring you all the information that you're asking for. So that, again, that will be sent out in the email following the seminar. So I have, I'd like to take this opportunity to kick off the, the Q&A portion of the seminar. I do have, let's see. I have a couple of questions that have been submitted to me that I will go ahead and start off with. Okay, so this one says, can my mom or siblings be sued if my father, who has Parkinson's and MCI, is driving and hurts someone? Who can be held legally liable if someone is driving with diagnoses like Parkinson's or mild cognitive impairment?
Okay, I'll take it. So the state of Texas actually has an actual book that lists different diagnoses, and that is for physicians to help decide at what point for those progressive neurological conditions when to determine that they're not safe to drive anymore. Unfortunately, the way some of those disease processes impact certain people is different. Some people progress and have more difficulties cognitively versus physically, but maybe the same diagnoses. So it's not a set hard rule one way or the other. And we can also send you a link out, and I can send that to you, Natalie, with where to find that with specific diagnoses listed and what the rules are for the state. That's where these comprehensive driving evaluations come in, because they really look at the individual person, their strengths, their weaknesses, and then how those play out on the road. And help give you that guidance and the documentation and the objective measurements on how someone is driving and their safety on the road. The caveat to all of that is if a medical provider were to make a recommendation that a family member should no longer be driving for whatever reason, whether it be there's cognitive limitations, and that goes in the medical record, and then your loved one were to go out on the road and drive and get into a car accident and hurt someone, the medical records can be pulled. And if that person's in their medical records, it states that it was recommended that they no longer drive, that would come up in court. And at that point, that might affect how that plays out in court. So that is something to consider. One of the things that I really encourage family to do is if you're concerned for a reason. That gut reaction really is telling. And one of the two things that I like to ask family members when they call me, I get a lot of families that will just call and ask and say, hey, I'm really concerned about mom. And as we're talking through the process, I ask, would you put your children or grandchildren in the car with your mom or dad? If the immediate answer is no, that's a pretty telling sign that that person shouldn't be driving. Another pretty telling sign is if your parent is struggling with what we call ADLs, cooking, cleaning, medication management, bathing, kind of that life skills. If they're struggling with life skills, that's probably a good indication that driving, it really needs to be discussed. To kind of go back to the first part of the question, can other family members be sued? I don't know, unless you're their direct caregiver, probably not. I don't know for certain, but if you're one of the caregivers and you've recognized and not said something, it probably could come up in court, especially if there's documented concerns outside of that. Hopefully that answered that question.
Thank you. I have another question. This one is, my dad is 93 and the primary caregiver for my mom. They live at home with another caregiver that helps out 4 hours a day. My father's driving is okay, but I'd feel more comfortable with an assessment of some sort. How do I talk him into that?
That's a really hard question because everyone is kind of independent in what makes them tick. Personally, I've learned that finances is a good way to sometimes go about it, especially at that like 90 plus age group. Talking about if an accident were to happen, this is how much it would cost. And this is how much the evaluation costs, sometimes going at it from a financial standpoint. I talked about earlier, the honesty of really kind of saying why and giving examples and really talking about your concern for him. And then the other way is most people don't want to hurt someone else. They don't want to put themselves in this position where they would get into an accident and maybe hurt a child that's riding a bike. So talking to them about that and that possibility that you have concerns they might injure someone else, that's for a lot of people that really hits home. So that would be one way to pick it up. I know, Stephanie, you sometimes talk. What examples do you give?
Yeah, I was going to chime in there, and sometimes, that get past that threshold of fear for an aging parent, it could just take one simple step of, I have found when we register, sometimes we'll register an older adult and their children will be there in the room during the registration process. And at the very beginning of the meeting, the tension is very, very high. But once we progress through our intake process and a little bit more safety starts to set in and a little bit more realization that the parent is going to be able to remain independent, that fear threshold will back off a little bit. And I feel like that conversation of we need to get an evaluation can go down a lot smoother when there's some security in place. And if a senior registers with us, it does provide a level of security, but also it just getting through that first phase of fear is really important. I don't know if this was a topic that's appropriate for this forum, but a lot of people are confused on what adult protective services is. It's not the same as child protective services. If you call child protective services, someone's going to come in and they're going to have legal rights. They're going to come in and they could do things outside of your permission. Adult protective services is not the same thing. Their main goal is to provide resources for seniors. And once in the past, I called adult protective services and they told me that conversation of actually having a social worker come in the home, they are trained to have that conversation with a senior adult. And they do it in a way that is presented safely to address any misconceptions of what APS actually does. And they will come in and do an evaluation and actually provide the services for an aging adult. If they need handles in the bathroom and you can't afford it, they provide all these additional services. I'm not saying call APS right away, but if you're in a situation where you really don't know what to do, they can give you guidance over the phone, and they're not going to, bust down any doors to talk to a senior. Their main goal is really to make sure seniors are safe first, they are safe, and then other people are safe too. And so they can actually provide some guidance. If you call them, it doesn't automatically mean they're going to go do any actionable items, but they've provided me with a lot of guidance, and they actually addressed a situation. I was able to convince one of our clients, hey, you know, I have someone who might have resources. Would you be willing if we came together for them to talk to you? And we showed up together with APS, and they didn't even 100% know it was Adult Protective Services until we were actually there. We didn't trick anybody, but when we were there, we were able to address some of those needs that come from a more professional evaluation type process.
I want to add too, I didn't mention this, but primary care physicians are great. So if your parent has a primary care physician, definitely make an appointment together with your parent and talk to the physician about your concerns. And they can also help you. And a lot of times people take a lot of stock in what the physician says, and they have some of those medical resources again. The other thing I didn't mention before is there's two different types of kind of companies that provide driving evaluations. There's people like myself who are OTs that do private practice. Many of us, we come to the client's home. So the evaluation, the clinical part is done in the home. So that way the person that is being evaluated, they feel more comfortable. And then we drive in the community. So we're assessing the older adult going to places that they normally would drive, like church and the grocery store, places like that. The other type of program that's offered, St. David's is an example of that. It's a hospital-based program where you actually go to the hospital, you see the occupational therapist, driving rehab specialist in the clinic, and then you do the driving evaluation in a road course around the hospital. So there are two different types. So when you're talking to your loved one about it, maybe considering which one might be a better fit would also help with that discussion.
Thank you. I hope that
one more thing I just wanted to add. Aging parents, just kind of like younger adults, will listen to someone else other than a family member. And sometimes that's all it takes. You can find someone reputable. I have conversations. Sometimes we'll have caretakers call us and want us just to show up unannounced to their parents' home, and we don't do that. But I will offer, I'll say, hey, would you be willing to let me have a conversation with them? And so having a third party involved, sometimes that's all it takes too, like the physician, like Megan said. And, you know, I cared for my grandmother when she was aging before she passed away. And there was a couple times where I had to reach out to a third party, and, you know, there's just that tension in between family members sometimes, and people can't see past the tension. But if a third party comes in and says, can reword it a little bit differently, sometimes that's all it takes too, is a third party.
Thank you. I agree. I have many conversations with family caregivers about that. How do we have this conversation? And then we explore like the many different ways and people in that person's, you know, circle to be able to facilitate that. So let's see. Stephanie, this question is for you. Can you tell us a little bit about wheelchair and like rollator walker or standard walker accessibility with rides that Drive a Senior provides?
Yes. Because we are a volunteer-based organization, we are not qualified to address the transportation needs for individuals in wheelchairs. We do accept folks who are using rollators and walkers, and that's fine. We also can make some exceptions for our van program when it reopens. If a client can be wheeled to our van and the destination we're going to, like a museum, has wheelchairs there, then we can, some of our clients can walk from the front door to a car, but going on a museum trip isn't necessarily a reasonable expectation. So with our social program, we have a little bit more flexibility, but we unfortunately will not register a client if they are already in a wheelchair.
Okay. Thank you for that. Let me check the chat box. let's see. You guys, I have some questions here, but a lot of them were already okay, here's a question. Is a medical driving evaluation the same as a car fit event? And can you explain a little bit like what a car fit event is?
Okay, yeah. So CarFit is a collaboration between the American Occupational Therapy Association, AAA, and AARP. And what those three organizations did is they came together and they developed this criteria. And there's 12 different criterias. And they put it together in this event. And I don't know if anyone has ever been to one, but it's completely free. Typically, they're hosted by like AAA. The police departments will sometimes do it, and it takes 15 minutes. You bring your own car, you show up, and there's technicians that have been trained, and what they're looking at are these 12 different areas. And it's, is my seatbelt fitting correctly? Does the steering wheel position properly? Are my mirrors adjusted correctly? Are my headlights doing okay? They take kind of a walk around the car to make sure that your tires are functioning, they're not worn down. There's a couple of other things that kind of fit in there, but it's completely free, and it's how does your car fit to you? A lot of times the technicians are really well trained, and they just give out a lot of extra kind of tips and tricks for cars. There's usually a goodie bag with like a tire press checker, like a windshield cleaner, things like that. And like I said, it's completely free. I know right now they've been in Central Texas. Most of them have stopped. I do know that there will be an event in, I want to say the end of September or beginning of October at Sun City. So you can go to CarFit and their website, and it'll list where everything is, the different events are taking place. I know in Central Texas, there's usually about 3 to 4 different events in the fall, and then again in the spring. They try not to host them in the summer and the winter just because of weather. But that's kind of it. They don't look at your driving skills. They more look at is the vehicle safe for you. Then there's the DPS driving evaluation, where you know, when we were a teenager, we went to go get our car license. They basically are looking at, can you safely operate a vehicle? They're not looking at, I have this medical diagnosis, and that, how is that going to impact my driving safety? They're just looking at, can you safely make a right turn? Can you safely make a left turn? Can you do a merge? They may not even take the person on the highway. It might just be local roads. The next step would be that comprehensive driving evaluation, where they're actually looking at what's going on medically with a person, whether physically, cognitively, or emotionally impacting their driving skills. And they're also looking at driving in multiple environments under different stress levels. So it's just a more comprehensive and more complex look at the person's driving safety. It is not typically covered by insurance, the medical driving evaluation. I do like to kind of put that out there to people. The cost is typically anywhere from $350 to $500, depending on the program and the company that's doing it. But it is really thorough. It's typically a 3-hour or so assessment. And that's kind of the progression of the different programs. People sometimes get confused when they hear car and driving evaluation and they don't quite realize kind of the complexity of the different ones.
Thank you for that. Stephanie, I have a question. What does the registration process look like for Drive a Senior? And I'm sorry if you've already touched on this, but just, you know, the length of time it takes from, you know, that first call and somebody begins the registration process that way to the time that they're able to utilize the service.
Sure. Typically, we don't have a wait list, but because of COVID, we did have to put a hold on registration because we virtually almost shut down our program for a little while there. once we get through the wait list that we have right now, the typical process is you get a call, and usually within a week we do an assessment, or we actually change that word to an intake. It's not really, we're not going to come in and do an assessment and look at your home and ask you a whole bunch of questions. It's more of an intake. And unfortunately we can't do it in person anymore, but it really is more of an introduction to our services, and we want to make it as personal as possible. Right now we're doing those over the phone, and it's usually about a 15 to 20 minute intake with time for questions. It usually ends up being 30 minutes with the questions. We never limit how long it takes. We will answer every single question, and love to hear stories when we do our intakes too. We make it really personal. And from that point of registering with us with the intake, usually within a few days, you're ready to schedule your first ride request. And the way that works is the senior will call our office and put their ride request in with us. We have a scheduling platform where all of our volunteer drivers, they log in and they see what rides are open, and they choose the rides that fit into their schedule. And it's that simple. You just put your ride request in, and a volunteer chooses it. The volunteer gives the client a phone call to let them know, hey, my name is Stephanie. I'm going to be picking you up at 10:15 tomorrow morning, and it goes from there.
Wonderful. I have another question. So let's say an older adult is absolutely interested and in Drive a Senior program, or your program, Megan, for an evaluation. And the process can be often overwhelming, just the thought of registering for a new type of resource and service can sometimes overwhelm an individual. Is it okay for the primary caregiver, that family caregiver, to step in and help get that going? Is there a good conversation and communication that can happen between the primary care physician, the primary care giver, and the agency, your agencies, to help establish that if the person who's actually going to utilize it doesn't really want to be super involved in that process? Okay, can that happen? Would I be able to set that up for my mom? What kind of I guess authorization would you need from her if I were to just take that lead?
So for Drive a Senior, we actually require the client to participate in the registration process, because what has happened in the past is, and this has happened to me, I don't do the intakes anymore, but I did for the first 2 years I was with Drive a Senior. I showed up and the senior had no idea I was coming. And it was very hurtful for their trust. And it was very uncomfortable. And in order to eliminate that from happening, we do require the senior to at least be present for the intake. And that way we can also have a little bit of assessment if the program is a right fit. If a senior is at a point where they have, advanced dementia, then it may not be a good fit for us, because there is a level of independence that needs to happen with booking rides. And even if someone has memory challenges, that doesn't exclude them from our program. I don't want to say that, but if we're at a place where someone can't independently make a phone call, then that's not the right fit for our program. So in order to make sure that is going to happen, that is the right fit, we do require the clients to participate in some way in their registration process.
And then for our program, the person is pretty independent for the most part if they're still driving. However, I do receive a lot of calls from family members, kind of across the lifespan for teen drivers and all the way up through older adults. And I would say at least 75% of the people that call, I speak to them probably 2, 3, 4 times even sometimes before they even schedule. If people are concerned, or they are even just wanting to talk about having an assessment, I encourage people to call me. We'll talk about it. We'll see, like you were saying, Stephanie, is it a right fit? Is now the right time? sometimes I've even had family members call me and we already know before I go in that that person shouldn't be driving. And I can help that family make that decision and find the resources from a primary care physician to have that conversation without me even coming in sometimes, and because it's that apparent. So I do have a lot of conversations even before we schedule a lot of times. I don't always require the person that needs the driving evaluation to call me directly. I'm okay with the family member scheduling as long as they can tell me, yes, that my parent knows that you're coming. I do like to have a family member present. It's just like when you go to the doctors, a lot of information can be overwhelming, especially if we're having that driving retirement conversation. It can be emotionally charged. When you're emotional, it's hard to intake everything that's coming at you. So I do like to have family members present for pretty much the whole evaluation. I don't have them come in the car with me because that can make the loved one a little bit more anxious in the driving, but I do like to have them there through the clinical part if they'd like to be, and then especially at the end when we're talking about the results, whether it's driving retirement or maybe modifying their driving behaviors, so that way they can process it together after I leave. And then I always encourage them, if they have questions afterwards, to call me, and many families do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I do have another question. Do either of you know of any Drive a Senior programs or similar programs in the Brenham area, the Brenham, Texas, College Station area?
No, I'm not sure.
I do not have any right now, but this is my job, so I can absolutely look that up for you and answer that question for you. And so let me write that down, actually.
Natalie, while you're writing that down, I was going to mention for the participants, I did put together like a 4-page newsletter that Natalie's going to send out, and it summarizes driving retirement, how to develop a plan, what to talk about for family members who want to have that conversation, some tips on how to have that conversation, what to bring up, what not to bring up, keys for a successful conversation. And then on one of the pages, there is a list of websites and resources. A couple of the ones that I wanted to highlight, I've already kind of talked about the Hartford Market Mature Excellence Program. They have a wealth of information on driving retirement, driving evaluations, how to have conversations. So I really encourage people to go to that website. AAA and AARP are also treasure troves of information about driving with older adults. And then on my personal blog website, homeanddriving.com, I put out weekly blogs about these topics, and they're just short, 2 or 3 minute reads on different topics around driving and older adults. So those are some of the different websites listed, but that newsletter will go out at the end to everybody as well.
I'll absolutely include that. Does anybody have any questions? You don't necessarily have to use the chat box. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, you can do that as well.
I did want to also point out that Drive a Senior doesn't only provide transportation services. We also do light home repair and yard work. We have a referral program. If you do need some resources, you can give us a call. We can help you get plugged into resources. And reassurance calls. We also have a team who just likes to call seniors once a month just to chat. And that light home repair and yard work, it's, we don't want certain folks to get on ladders to change light bulbs or to clean out your gutters. And we have Young Men's Service League, Boy Scouts, National Charity League girls who love to come over and do volunteer work that can help you in your home and in your yard too.
Wonderful. And also, as you were mentioning, I just wanted to add this to the individuals who are in the Georgetown area. Faith in Action Georgetown is a local transportation resource, just like Drive a Senior that we have here in the Austin area and surrounding
They
areas.
actually were branched off from the West Austin. We all used to be called Faith in Action, all the senior transportation agencies. So they do exactly what I'm telling you now. They do the exact same thing.
Well, wonderful. I think that's all of our questions, and we can just wrap this up and let everybody get on with their Saturday. Again, thank you all so much for joining us and spending some time with us this morning. It's a pleasure to connect with everyone, even if it is virtually. I'm happy that we were able to provide this information to you. If you have any other questions that you think of after we conclude this, please do not hesitate to call Megan, Stephanie, or myself, Natalie, or send me an email. We're always open to answer any questions. And yeah, so thank you so much. Thank you, Megan and Stephanie. This is really wonderful information.
Sure. Thanks for having us. You guys all have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.